And we are live. Hola, community. How is it going? It's spring here in Amsterdam, and it's also spring here at the Blender Animation Studio. The movie is finally out since a few days already. It's over 300,000 views so far. Great comments, great everything. So now, today, we can allow ourselves to have a more relaxed chat with director, writer, shading, lighting, VFX, fixing, comp, editing, you name it, Andy Goralczyk. So,
hi.
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 Hey. So, clap sounds. Hey, how are you? Oh, thank you everyone for the thumbs up. This is how I make sure that I'm not messing up the sound and the music and everything. So, thanks everyone for tuning in. It's live. It's 5 p.m. here in Amsterdam, so you can ask all the questions to Andy. I'll just share the link. I think it's on the description or in the first comment of this video, but I'm going to share it here on the live stream as well, on the chat here on YouTube, so we can start answering questions in a bit. Not yet.
Wow, so many people.
Yeah, from everywhere. Where are you watching this from, by the way? So people from all over the place. So it's not that I'm short, it's that
I'm just standing on a beer crate right now. Yeah.
Wow. So how is it? How are you, by the way? How is it after? How's life after spring?
I'm fine. It's very relaxed currently, and yeah, I'm just chilling out. Not trying to do anything too demanding because the last couple of months have been very rough to finish up everything, and then there was of course the final sprint. Sprint.
No,
wait, I'm not gonna do that. The final sprint at the end of the project. But yeah, no, it's just very relaxed.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So the main thing on this project was getting Blender 2.8 ready. And by that, exactly, the code quest. So somewhere, yes, last year in May, around May, the whole team changed from 2.7 to 2.8, like in one day.
Well, pretty much, even though like it wasn't all that smooth in the beginning. I mean, it was when the code quest started, right? Everyone was coming here to the new studio actually. And then after a while, the spring team moved in. So for a while, we were still sitting in the center of Amsterdam alone, like Spider-Man. I'm just gonna use Blender here. And yeah, and then we were coming here, and then the deal was you move into this new building, you're gonna be using Blender 2.8
every day.
Every day. So in the beginning, it was a bit shaky because. 2.8 wasn't ready, and then over the course of the code quest it was developed further and a lot of stuff changed, and the top bar was added in, and the collections and everything.
The collections was recoded, like the way collections worked inside of Blender was recoded, and the fact that Blender kept sort of running and files from 2.7 kept running is insane.
Yeah. So what we do I have to talk really loud, by the way, or?
Oh, if you can, please.
Yeah. Anyway, so what we were doing in the beginning is we were trying to keep it very parallel because Blender wasn't that ready for animation yet. So the dependency graph was still very much under heavy development. So we tried the first week to see, okay, can we do the bare minimum of stuff, and then we tried with a couple of shots of the film, like the first shots that you see in the film with the icicles were the earliest Blender 2.8 files. Of course, after a while we started to rework them and redo them, of course, but these were the first building blocks where we first tried to figure out what is this collection thing, what are these view layers, how does it all work. And then, by the way, there was Workbench, so
the Workbench,
all the fancy UI things, like where you can color objects randomly in the viewport and all that kind of stuff. That was very new to us, so we had to get used to everything and try to find a way of working this strange new piece of software. So it was pretty rough, and then after a couple of months it got like to a point where we could actually use it, and then the project was over.
And then it was over. Wow. Yeah. So if you didn't know, by the way, Spring, it's made with what render did you use, by the way?
Oh, that's a touchy subject.
That's a touch question. Yeah, maybe okay. We're gonna leave it for the end. But one of the main things of Spring, if you haven't seen it, please go watch it. Take a moment because we're gonna spoil you so bad.
There's gonna be some spoilers.
Yes. So, okay, first thing, that's not a chocolate. Next thing, spring is full of clouds. So one of the big improvements that were done to cycles was to render clouds, right? Like to volumes, camera instead of volumes. And we, even though we had that previous projects,
Yeah,
also,
there were some improvements that were made, and actually some bug fixes that we found along the way, and then yeah, but most of the time, the volumetric stuff really wasn't that much under development. That was like the one thing that we had from the get-go. We said, okay, we're not going to do heavy development in rendering because we have most of the tools already. Cycles, which this was rendered in, by the way. This was rendered in,
spoiler.
this was rendered in Cycles, was already pretty good. So we knew that we had all the features that we could make this film with. So, but all the rest of the stuff, like how do you make a scene in Blender and then output it to the render and all that kind of stuff. So that was all very much under development. That was very experimental for us as well, because how do you put all this stuff together using collections, using view layers?
So basically replacing the 20 little buttons we had in 2.7
exactly.
with an actual massive collection system. So yeah.
When you're working in a film like this, you have a really complex array of stuff that all needs to get shoved together to produce a final frame, and that was the big milestone for this project. That we could actually do this.
That's crazy, and then I'm still amazed. Everybody's of course looking at the render, so it's like actually the renderer, even though it's way faster than in 2.7, you can compare. It's like more than 30% faster in 2.7. It's just the fact that many tools or many options that are considered experimental, like micro displacement, they're having use here for like actually displacing the meshes and getting more details. So that is still crazy to me.
I don't think we used micro displacement though.
Sure, for the real displacement.
We used Cycles displacement, like the little plug you do in the node output, but not micro displacement.
Are they actually micro one?
Yeah, because I think we ran into issues. You get the dicing the scene, and then you get slight tessellation problems. And
you tested it for the mountains at the beginning.
Yeah, but in the end, if there was one thing that was really like the thing in this project, like the memory usage went through the roof with this. So I don't think micro displacement would have really helped that. But yeah, there's a lot of displacement in this film, and like we were using principled BSDF and principled volumes all along the way. So those things that were also developed and improved for this project. But a big thing that was a first for this project was actually denoising.
Denoising.
Yeah, because this is the first film that we used that used the Cycles denoiser, and we actually were using it, and we were extending it in a different way, where we also where we didn't just make it as part of the rendering process, but we actually did it in post, like not in post like for Cycles, for the in the compositor where you do the bilateral blurring and that kind of stuff based on normals, but in the actual Cycles denoiser that Lukas Stockner made, Brecht actually made
operator,
a change operator kind of thing that lets you denoise based on a multi-layer EXR sequence. So we were getting these enormous frames from the render farm back with all the layers that you need for denoising, and then you just run a little hacky operator command thing, and then you basically denoise the entire thing. It's super hackish, but that was actually very interesting.
It kind of works, and it really doesn't take much. I think I demoed it a few weeks ago, but it feels a bit hackish, but it's not really. Or do you think it is hackish? The problem is how
it's just not it's not exposed to the user interface.
How to execute it? Yeah. So quick crash course. Just enable the denoising data, and then in the terminal you will find that you have the operator called vpy.cycles operators cycles, and then you will find the denoise animation. That's the one. So that's a crash course. Of course it takes a bit more than that, because you have to have it, for example, if you want to for denoising is this, but for measuring images with different samples, for example, you also have to use the this operator with a different seed number. So there will be documentation for this on the Blender Cloud.
Yeah. This is not for like, even I don't know half of what you need to do there. I think you also have to use the exact same output path as you have for the input path, and then you need to load it in the movie clip editor, and then your denoising settings are not what in the scene that you originally rendered with, but in the scene that you currently are loading with. So I wouldn't really recommend touching these things so far.
Good point. Yeah, because it's using this. Yeah, we're gonna confuse people. So just wait for the training on the cloud. But yeah, it's using actually the ones on the scene that you're running the script on, not the actual scene where it comes from. So after that confusing part of, I think it's about time we move to questions, because there are many questions and will be cool to get over all of them.
Let's go.
Or most of them. So okay, 19 comments so far. So remember, for asking the questions, you can go to Blender.Today and you will find the thread here. It's called Spring is Here, or I also pasted the link over there. So hey, congrats on you, the Blend animation with Spring.
Thank you.
Could you explain how did you manage scenes with high poly and low poly assets for Spring? For now, we use two blend files with high and low. How would you? How does it work?
All right. So usually we don't do it blend file based. So imagine you would have like you have a whole production repository. At some point you have the shots, and some points you have all the props for it. So we're looking at the props currently, and we would do it so a prop is stored in one blend file. So you might have the staff of Spring in that one blend file. That would be called staff.blend, and that's the thing that you link into the individual shots along with the character and everything.
Staff.blend? I happen to have it right here. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Now, the way that we manage the low and high kind of way is using collections. So you have a collection in your scene that's called high, and that contains the high staff, and then low, which contains an optimized version for the animators. Now, in our project, most of the time the animators were actually working with the high resolution version, just because they needed to, to get Spring to interact with the staff in that meticulous kind of way. Like, I mean, you can see it in the shots that Hjalti animated. It's super amazing how she actually seems to be touching the staff. It's so well done. So yeah, in that case, they would actually use the high resolution staff.
Like this.
Yeah. And so what we would do is we don't have a script kind of pipeline for it anymore. We would just swap out the collection name. So you would link in both things, the staff high and the staff low, and then you basically swap out the names. You can also do that with a Python script. It's actually fairly simple. Yeah, but we didn't have that many props to switch back and forth, so we were able to do it this way. Yeah, and I think the rest of the question was like a bit of confusion of But I noticed that in prop files in Spring contain both types in one collection called GRP. So how referencing and switching is happening? So the GRP thing is basically a leftover from the old group system that collections kind of try to replace, but they also kind of want to be something new. Yeah. So we are working with prefixes to objects and other kinds of things a lot. This is not the best file to look at because it's a bit messy. But so GRP is a prefix to a collection that tells the artist that this collection can actually be instanced or is meant to be instanced to a different file. So it's called GRP, is called group. So this one you can actually take into your file. And then why is this high and low collection in the same thing? That just means that you can just you can just load up the staff in your file, and then you can do the visibility setting in your blend file locally in the shot, or well, you know, by Python overrides and that kind of stuff. Yeah. But most of the time we had, like for the staff, for example, the high resolution one was never actually visible to the camera, and the low resolution one was only visible in the viewport. And in that instance, the low resolution one also didn't differ that much from the high resolution one. So yeah, it's not the best example, but most of the time you would have a collection that has a GRP prefix, and then there would be a low resolution one that the animators see and a high resolution one that only the renderer sees and we never ever see in the viewport.
Yeah.
Did that confuse you? Me too. Great. I'm
Basically,
sorry.
you just use two, and then you choose what to show in the viewport, for example, for depending on the task that you're running, that you're doing. So for example, in this case, we have, this is the lighting file, so we have only spring high. There's no reason to have spring low. Hopefully one day this will become a cache that the animators export and the lighting artists don't even have to deal with.
Yeah.
But for animation you don't need both, because then you need.
Yeah, the naming based thing is not really the most straightforward way. So you'd have an asset manager that knows, okay, there's this asset called staff, and that uses high resolution, low resolution, medium resolution, variation number 25 or whatever, and and that deals with this, so you don't have to remember all these thousands of names. So that's something we still need to address.
Yes, next project is gonna have an asset manager. Let's hope.
Let's hope, yeah.
Let's hope. The same as a new. We always say the next project has to have a new particle system or a new compositor, or we keep making films with what we have. Next question. Very interested in how you organize all your stuff in your projects, your assets, your shots in the sequencer, the assets, and how everything is managed in your edit. Using Blender raises a lot of questions on how to organize your scene. So, for example, you name the sequencer. In the sequencer, is there any particular order that you use for the actual editing, or like for the grading of the?
So in the sequencer, okay, what you can see here, I hope, is the edit of spring, and the top part, that's not really that important there. These are just some colors that help to identify the shots, and then some adjustment layers. So the topmost part was done in grading, and then the bottom part is what you're working with, and we have different levels of shots being done, and you can see in the bottommost part there's the layout.
So there's the layout. You don't have to explain everything.
Yeah, it's hard to explain. So at first you would maybe start your project by storyboarding it. Already you can scan in your storyboards and then put them in the sequence editor to make an animatic out of it. So you have a very simple version of your film that's hand drawn. And you can already make some decisions about timing. How long does this scene take? Does this feel too slow? Does it feel too fast? And then you can see it in a sequence, and you kind of get a feeling how your film looks like. And then what you would do after that is try to do a layout, where you replace the animatic or the storyboard version with a 3D animated one, where you are making decisions about how is your set looking like, how are the camera angles, and then you're trying out different camera angles, different sets, and you're basically adding more detail as you go along. And that's what we would, like all this kind of stuff we manage in this edit. And this edit is also tied into our shot tracking software, Attract.
Yes.
So the topmost channels, like all these colors, like the blue stuff here and the green stuff, these are just color strips. That's how I did it here. Wow. And these give you an idea how long each shot is, and that gets adjusted along the process, along the way while you're editing this. But these are the actual representations of the shots in our shot tracking software. So the shot tracking software knows where that shot is in the edit, what the name is, what the duration is, and then what the tasks that are associated with it are. For example, you need to animate it, you need to do a camera pass, you need to light it, you need some other things for it.
You need to do like
airsim, comp, rendering, and all that kind of stuff.
Everything. Yeah. So it's stay tuned for the cloud, I say.
Yeah, it's like the edit and Attract, that's kind of the two-way things where everything goes together. And then you have all these kind of blend files that make up the shots. And these are in our repository, and this is where we make the film and animate everything. Short.
Yes,
that's right.
And the great thing about all of this pipeline is that you can actually use it yourself. the Attract is available for all Blender Cloud subscribers, and the add-on also. So if you have a Blender Cloud subscription, which is how Spring got made and how all the open projects get made, you can just get the add-on and do it yourself. Use the same system with the there is documentation on YouTube or how to set up by in the Blender Cloud YouTube channel, how to set up your own Attract stuff. Next question. Just want to know what kind of dark magic did you guys invoke to make Spring so good? Coffee? Dark magic?
Coffee, yeah, coffee helps. A lot of dedication, I would say. I mean,
a filmic,
yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. I think like we have a really. I'm so proud of our team upstairs in the animation studio part of Blender here. These guys are so passionate about and like about putting so much detail into the shots and into every single moment of the film. Like, I think that's really what makes it so special. Like, you can look at it, you can watch it multiple times and just enjoy all the detail.
Yeah, people actually caring about the project, right? Like the passion behind it, I think it's the best.
And using Blender is awesome. So
yeah, and improving it, being able to improving it is amazing.
Yeah.
Could we have some clarification about what will happen in the texture editor? Okay, this is more technical,
yeah.
But with the texture editor, there is not much to clarify because it's a part of Blender that it's a bit. I wish it will be.
Is it everything node stuff or?
Well, yeah, not really. It's more like the painting workflow system, like the texture editor.
Oh, texture painting. Okay, yeah.
I think because I think that's what he means.
Yeah.
So another question: what about MantaFlow? There has been plenty of updates on the like commits there on the actual branch. There are plenty of changes, but yeah, I think it looks really.
I would love to test
oriented
it
for 281. Yeah. Then we have to make a film.
Yeah.
with that. So.
Ocean project.
Hello, I absolutely love Spring. It really shows all your honing in the craft. Looking forward to the next movie already. How would you compare the scale of Spring to the previous open movies? That's a very nice question. Is there going to be a new blog post or an update? Yes, there will be more blog posts, especially on the development fund part because of the home stretch. But I'm going to talk that later in this episode. How would you compare the scale of Spring? Actually, that's a very good question too.
That's a good question. Yeah. I've done 10 years of open projects, and I would say it's by far, I mean, it's difficult to answer because like there's a lot of stuff in this project that we've never done before. We've, like, as I said, the memory went through the roof, so we really scraped on like we were allowed to render with 16 gigs of memory in 2019. Yeah, is like that's not really that recent anymore, but our render farm had that limitation anyway, and then we made it work with 32 gigs. So 32 gigs of memory is what we like the top.
So we set as a roof.
Yeah, the roof. Of course, we blew it off, but whatever. So a lot of memory, big memory usage. The environment is very complex. Like you have a big forest, you have a valley, you have mountains and all that kind of stuff. So that's very complex. I mean, in Sintel, you had lots of different environments. That was a complicated part. But yeah. I remember, I don't know, in Cosmos, for example, with all the sheep and there's the singing, and no, not the singing is made it even more complex, but there's all everywhere. And they also have simulations. And you did both of them, the simulations. I mean, you
did both of, like, in Spring, you did the hardcore part of having a bunch of huge characters, and you also did it for Cosmos with lesser hardware and lesser Blender in a way.
In Cosmos, I think it was like the tornado part was really the most difficult one in terms of R&D, because you need to actually make the thing work and find out how it works. For this project, I was already used to doing cloud simulations or smoke simulations, so I knew how to do it kind of, and I did it. So that part, like, you learn with each project. So, but I would say that it's by far the most complex film, even though it doesn't try to be, because we really wanted to do something very simple, like one girl and one dog. And an army of smoke monsters with tentacles and fur and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
that
in the
walk
mountains.
around in the mountains, of
In a
course.
forest, just saying.
Yeah. So.
So yeah, this is by far the most complex. Another question, Voxel9. Congratulations to anyone who brought Spring back this year. Beautiful graphics, animation is so cute. Blender, will there be more chances about... yeah, we haven't had a chance to find Spring t-shirts. We should be making Spring t-shirts.
Yeah,
Would you buy a Spring t-shirt if you were...
Let us know, yeah.
Let us know. If there is enough people, we can make some.
Yeah.
Well, we need at least the crew t-shirts.
Oh yeah, it would be so cool.
Yeah. Will there be more chances with the Blender 2.8 official release? Well, I hope Spring can have a place in the 2.80 splash screen. And maybe
cool,
based on that.
Awesome.
Because it is the project that pushed it the most. So maybe based on that, we can have a design for a t-shirt. So Spring is beautiful. My wife wants to play it as a game.
Nice.
I'm not sure if you're taking any non-Spring questions. I'm gonna ask that one after. Check that one after. Let's try to leave the questions that I can ask Andy here. So, what's the next project? What is the next project? That's a good question.
I have no clue what Ton really wants to do. I mean, people know that we're gonna be working on the agent feature film at some point. So, like right now, we're researching how to make a feature film.
Yes.
Because that's something we've never done before. Some people have done it. Some people surprisingly use Blender to make feature films. So that's cool. There's some expertise already. That's the next big thing, hopefully. Maybe some smaller short films in between.
It would be nice to do a short film. I would like to see a bit more of the NPR part of Blender.
Yeah. It would be so good to do an EEVEE film. Like,
that would be amazing.
No more 8-hour render times.
Wow.
Per frame.
So we're getting close to the half of the show where we move into like the more technical part of Blender. Would like to hang out in there? How do you like the technical side of Blender? Do you make add-ons yourself?
Yeah, I make some really bad add-ons. I don't know. It's Blender's really it's very artistic in some ways, but also very technical in others. And I kind of like the blend between the two. So I really like the technical stuff, and I mean the 3D in itself is technical. So
yeah,
Blender kind of manages to like cross the line really well in that
between
sense.
the artist technical side and the non-technical side.
It can become really nerdy or not.
Which other open source project did you use? Like
Krita? We use Krita for texture painting and drawing, GIMP for some retouching, not use that heavily nowadays, Inkscape for all the vector kind of stuff, DJV for playing back image sequences, even though it's discontinued. Then I have to think. There's
pretty much everything. That's the role of the Blender Animation Studio, which for good or for bad, we try to constrain ourselves to use only tools that are accessible for everyone. So
or make the tools ourselves and make them
available for everyone, like Flamenco for rendering or Attract. They are open source. They're available. The Blender Cloud has them as it's so it's easier for you to access them. But if you were good enough with computers and stuff, you could probably run your own server. So I think we're good with the Spring things. Right. I didn't get to ask many questions from the live stream, unfortunately.
There's a lot of stuff I wasn't able to look at. It's crazy how many people there are.
Crazy, insane. So, favorite feature in 2.8 before you leave, and favorite
everything.
Upcoming. Everything now, or everything now and.
Okay, I would say it's probably EEVEE Collections, Workbench, all that kind of stuff. The UI changes are great as well because everything gets much more accessible and easy to find, so that's super cool. And
you can be not nice indeed. The fact that we are on the Blender Foundation YouTube channel doesn't mean you can be candid.
I could storm and flame
rant.
For a rant for hours. So no, it was good. Like all the complexity that Collections added really just made everything go like crazy. The possibilities. So that's really cool.
Do you think Spring would have taken would have been possible with 2.7. I mean, we kind of
Yeah, fair question. Of course, you can make it with 2.7,
but not with the same.
Yeah, not in the same kind of way, like with the same organization and the same complexity. Probably would have been done quicker because we wouldn't have that many crashes. But that's why we do it, to improve Blender.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you here. It would be awesome to keep doing this kind of videos.
Yeah,
for the
nice,
Blender Cloud channel. Yeah, like
Awesome
even
to hang
more.
out,
It's a cool place to hang out, and I was getting more technical because we also have an extra visitor today. So you're free to hang out if you want.
I'm gonna disappear.
You're gonna disappear, and then we're gonna get.
Oh my God! Welcome back.
What happened to you? Good to see you, man. Thank you, Andy. Bye bye.
Oh my God! Nice new camera, Pablo.
Oh yeah, you see, I'm getting fancy here. All the Blender Foundation sponsored channel. So welcome, welcome, Dalai Felinto. You were here last year. You were in Blender.Today, in Blender.Today, in Blender CodeQuest, Blender Developers YouTube channel. If you don't know Dalai, he was the manager, project manager of Blender 2.8. Coordinator during the CodeQuest. The CodeQuest, which where's your hoodie, man?
Oh, I brought a different one.
Well, during the CodeQuest, which brought the Blender 2.80 project forward. Now he's back together with all the other developers. Most of them, they are here for 1 week for the home stretch here in Amsterdam. The goal of it is to basically just 2.80 it's going fine, but now we need to wrap it up. We need
to prevent the goals to drift too much from, because we're all fixing bugs, but at some point you need to say, okay, it's time to get things finished and wrap it up and try. We're definitely agreeing on the release date, spoiler, but that's more for the end of the week.
Yes. Did you hear? Like, you just drop it, but there might be a really not to hype it, but like the goal is to have at least an idea of when is the release going to happen. But remember that before the release, there is release candidates where people get to test the releases before they actually go live. With in the past, we had the case that sometimes people don't really test the release candidates that much. They only test when it's the actual release. And some bugs slip by, and then you end up releasing 2.79 A, B, C.
To this day, like we were talking about how was the past month for everyone here, and we're still fixing bugs that were in 2.7 that no one just bothered to report. So we still have those, so it's going to be coming all over again. The other important part of the home stretch is to decide what to do after 2.8 is out, because we have a bright future ahead. And 2.8 brought so many new users and consolidated so many pipelines, but it took way too long to complete. So we're now thinking, what are the new deliverables we're going to have, the different projects in Blender. Those we can probably spoil a few of them. I don't know if you have...
You already have, because everything started today, actually. They got together today. So if you have any spoiler, we're going to answer some questions. By the way, you can keep asking questions on Blender.Today. I'm going to ask him. But so what was today about? There was a meeting, a kickoff in the morning.
Well, we started the same way we're going to start tomorrow and Wednesday with the Blender's Animation Studio feedback. So you guys had a postmortem.
Yes.
And a lot of this was translated to not feature requests, but constructive feedback on the Blender 2.80, because they're using 2.80 for what, 1 year almost? 9 months, 10 months at least. 11 months straight, because you guys switched it to 2.80 after the first month of the Blender CodeQuest last year. So we're starting these sections of every day in the beginning of the week with their feedback. Today was the animation team feedback. So big, so vast. And it's not even very fancy. They're really trying to focus on low-hanging fruits, which is a more technical terminology for things we could quickly tackle and then get a huge outcome from it.
Yeah, we had that talk, just a little, that we had that presentation. So basically, since we've been working with 2.8 for over a year, it's just, there's so much feedback going on where to focus and what works and what doesn't work. So the idea is that the Blender Studio, I mean, of course, everybody's using it all over the world, but the studio here is like full on, like using it even before we was
like collections were a thing, or like, I don't know, or even were the same system that we have now. So it's very important for the studio to give feedback, and that's what the animation team did, and that's what the render team is going to do. I hope to be there because I also have some feedback on 2.8 on what to improve. So that's part of the goal.
Yeah. So we had the presentation from the animation team, and we started talking about the future projects, which I can't guess it could tease some of those topics, but
Tease. If they are not like too hypey, don't say like.
No, it's feeling like the user interface. There's a lot that was done for 2.80.
Yes.
There are things we want to improve. For instance, drag and drop as a more... nothing's preventing users from drag and drop panels all over Blender, besides the fact that it's not implemented. So there's a lot
Nothing
of room.
is stopping it besides the fact that it's not implemented. Okay.
So it's this is an example, or the asset manager. Asset manager is finally coming with the 2.81 to, I don't know,
281, hopefully, yes.
Animation tools. So part of the things that was discussed with the animation team was to bring more fast with interactive feedback motion tools, the motion path tools.
Motion paths, that's a big one. So not even like fancy ones, just the ones that we have now, but faster. That is like huge.
And VR is another one I really
VR.
don't. So those are the 4 ones I'm planning to be involved. More like hands-on.
Like, yeah, okay, you as a developer, but it's also the other ones that the community are working on, like the sculpt features. That
yeah,
also...
Grease Pencil was in the list because Grease Pencil is planning to have a cutout support, so cutout features.
Yes.
In the upcoming releases, but on 2.80 they're focused on stability now. We had cycles, which means still onboarding and reviewing patches from the other contributors, and still keep moving features ahead. What do we have here?
I just happened to have this blindfold here, and it looks super creepy. When I was getting close, you can actually see through. But no, I just wanted to. So do you see Blender.Today when you are home, by the way? Do you stay up to date with the news?
I used to do every now and then.
Yeah.
Nowadays it just time is being of essence. I wasn't able to watch too much.
Okay,
I didn't even see Spring.
What?
Yeah.
Spoiler alerts. Sorry. Okay, we're not going to focus on Spring from now on. So just to show you, I'm going to actually put you up to date with what happened last week, because with the travel from Brazil and everything, you may have
I definitely missed this episode for sure.
So this week it was a lot of updates on the UI, the interface level. So nothing like huge game changers, but for example, now which is more like a fix, when you collapse the nodes, they keep the same size as when they are uncollapsed. So before actually there was a different size for the collapsed nodes and when they're uncollapsed. So they were jumping around. It was super annoying. You do some scripting, I heard, right?
Oh, I used to be a full-time scripter for a few months at a time.
Well, you will be glad to hear that now the path for the text, if the script, for example, is saved on your hard drive, is going to show up in the bottom right here, the path. But not only that,
we were discussing today, I was mentioning that for me, the text editor is one of the orphan projects. And no, it's not. For instance, we have the header text there. So, okay. So we kind of agreed on it's not deprecated or obsolete. Or orphan.
No,
yet we agree on having a very simple scope of features. And if someone wants to integrate this with a debugger, probably won't support it. But carry on.
Okay, well, never mind then. The feature is that the big feature is that every editor now can have a footer, not only a header but a footer. So what you see here on top is the header, like every other window, every other editor. But now what you see here at the bottom is a footer, which happens to have the text internal now. But if you have
does it show the current line you're selecting?
No, but I know a developer.
Okay.
But actually you have that here. You can see it here.
No, but the current column.
The current column.
Which every single text editor has.
Okay, we could add those.
That's the kind of thing we're debating over. Like, so what's the scope of the text editor? We're doing it like today in the morning.
But that's an easy one. Like that feature, you can put it here. And there is even a place for it. And I'm actually super excited about this footer idea, because I would love for it to be actually here in the viewport itself.
The filter idea?
A footer.
Oh yeah, to have it in more places.
Yeah, to have a footer in the 3D view. I think the 3D view itself could benefit because that way you could have, say, for example, the stats down here of your object. And then you can, because it's transparent, so you wouldn't.
Yeah.
You wouldn't.
What if every time you mouse over something, then it takes over the tool footer we have in Blender?
And then what?
No, the one here, yeah.
Oh, well, that happens already with the
I don't know. I mean, saying
status.
so. I
It
don't know
could,
if you
but
need a per editor footer.
No, I think it could. It could because sometimes you don't, like, for example, now you have the stats here, which if you're doing like video editing, why would you care how many objects or triangles you have?
My point. Why do you then have these stats and then the footer on the VSA, the video editor?
Yeah.
As well. Maybe this
Oh,
footer
it changes
could
whatever
take
you
over.
have.
Yes. Think about how tools. We have one tool active for the whole window that might affect all the editors. Could the footer could also have this role?
Interesting. Well, you know, a developer, a very nice developer, has a proposal on removing the bottom headers. So basically, making the headers always be on a header on the top.
I love this idea.
Yeah, I'm also behind this idea. I would love to.
do.
I think it will lead to less confusing. Like when you're making a tutorial and you open a file that has the header at the bottom.
Yeah, it's
just weird. So what do you guys think? Do you think it's a good decision? It's still under discussion. Actually got kicked out, I think, for like later to talk about it because it's very controversial change. But I'm actually behind that.
And
one.
we discussed that last year even.
Huh?
We changed a little bit that regard. Like we changed the default position. So I think all the editors by default go to the top.
Oh yeah.
But we didn't remove this option,
yeah.
altogether.
So another little fix that was added this week was that now when you have the sidebar and you go overboard, it doesn't go away. Like now, it used to like become transparent. Now actually it just clamps to that maximum size, which that's very nice. Another one actually, which sounds small but is huge, is when you're changing a value in a slider, and do you notice? Like I'm moving it all the way, and back in the days, the mouse would appear on the other side of the screen, whereas now appears exactly where you left it. So the mouse, this pointer, stays
where it was.
So it's not like confusing anymore. I kind of got used to the other way, where you would expect the mouse to be somewhere on the other side, but you shouldn't get used to bad things. So, okay, let's continue. And another one that is also small, but helpful for people that are using the actual quad view. Do you use the quad view?
Oh, all the time.
All the time?
No.
Well, you're gonna use it even more now because now you can tell where the separation lines are.
I could tell, but okay.
Now it was you couldn't see it before. Now there's that separation line, and also I noticed that the toolbar is just one for the whole thing, so it makes it so much more useful. Really good, yeah. It makes it actually handy. I'm not a big fan of the quad view. It's like,
I think it's common for ArcBase.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're saying if you're looking at the whole set, I know you want to see things from the top.
More CAD stuff. So that's it for the interface. Then there is a new feature that we're gonna get to the questions in a bit. Just want to go through the this feature that is only for Grease Pencil for the time being, but basically allows you to when you have, for example, a animation like this amazing animation, you can change the color of the channel per layer, per Grease Pencil layer in the
what's a channel in this case?
A channel in the dope sheet.
Oh, the dope sheet animation.
The dope sheet, yeah. So for example, if you have if you have so many like layers, it's easy now to spot which ones are like the one that you're animating. And another thing that changed last week, which is pretty small but big at the same time, is that the way they're sorted in the dope sheet is the same that they're sorted here on the side. So it makes it one-on-one, and it even updates when you're moving it. So that's also pretty nice.
There's something I mean to say, but maybe can wait for later. But we have we have a lot of what's called paper cuts. What we need to bring it up. We have a task with a lot of those small tasks that, if they're addressed, they would improve everyone's life considerably. And we're now considering to create one for animation as well. because a lot of the feedback from the animators are like things you could probably do quicker, and it's not very disruptive in terms of design. And honestly, I'm trying to push for 2.80,
8.0, yes.
to actually prioritize the paper cuts, because I think it sends a strong message in terms that usability and polishing is important. Even though we're still leaving some big features out of the 2.80 deliverable, it's important to say that, okay, if 2.8 is about pipeline and workflow and user experience in terms of usability, should also feel good to use, and if you can address those small things, why not?
Then yes, it should be good to use. The thing is that, for example, this post is 2,000
Oh gosh.
comments long, so there has to be some kind of we have to go through this list and just try to like whitelist some of them and then put them up. What terrible idea?
Yeah, the display face orientation only for wrong side. No, come on.
For the wrong side. No, it's the other one.
You want to see both of them so you can compare. I use this feature all the time.
Yeah.
Because of working with Unity, and then Unity has back face culling, so you need to know where the face is facing. Where the face is facing.
Where the face is facing. Yeah. So, but there are many here. For example, this one is about there is no menu shortcut for the toggle view, but there is no shortcut for the one that toggles local view but doesn't move the view.
Right. But
okay.
But we have a task with those. I wasn't even mentioning specifically the dev talk.
Okay. So I'm gonna load this one once again. Okay, let's 10 minutes for 37 comments. No, okay, no. Some of them were for Spring. So any plans to improve real-time shadows in EEVEE? Have you heard?
Well, not about this particularly, but EEVEE still has a long roadmap ahead of it. So even after 2.80, Clemency on board, and the plan is to keep iterating and make it better. For instance, to bring real-time compositing to the viewport.
Oh, so, yeah.
But this is for 2.81.
But so. That's for the future, because Clement, by the way, is part of the Blender Development Fund. He's like one of the developers that benefits from the Blender Development Fund. So if you're one of these amazing people that join for only $5 per month, then, which by the way, the guys from Factorio joined recently.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they are also, they made a game. That game is actually made with some assets made with Blender. So, yeah, Clement stays on board, so he can work on more EEVEE features. More questions. Mantaflow. What about Mantaflow? There has been a lot of updates. Actually, I already mentioned this one before, but the branch is very active, so I would expect it for 281.
Yeah, we're talking about which parts of the physics which are going to be refactored because of the Everything Node project, which can be taken over by Mantaflow or not.
Yeah,
that was part of the discussion.
Yes. So more questions about taking more advantage of Google's Summer of Code, Season of Docs. What?
Yes. Don't you know?
No.
So Google's Google's Summer of Code is a well-established program for Google to encourage open source new contributors. So Blender, for instance, apply every year to get students, like master, PhD students, undergrad sometimes, to apply for a grant for the summer. So instead of flipping burgers or doing things unrelated to the field, they can just work in their favorite open source project and over time become a de facto contributor. That's how
so
Sergey
cool.
started and so many others. But now they started the Google Season of Documentation, Google Season of Docs, which is a similar scope, but in terms of the students and the involvement with open source, but it is to deliver final technical documents, specifically technical documents. So not a user manual, but to document the architecture and the API and how to bring new developers this part of the project, which is important.
Yeah, that would be absolutely awesome. And one of the topics we talk about this week with the developers is also documentation. So stay tuned for more. Production, did the crew feel new production lessons? Yeah, they did. Actually, there's a new coming for the Blender Cloud. There's also speed sculpting training by Julian, also uploaded already. I was the process of rigging an animation with 2.8 early on. Actually, the rigging was done with 2.7 because it was done way early. Like the characters were already in the animation phase when they moved to 2.8.
Yeah. And still painful.
Still painful, yeah, but the same amount of pain basically. So.
But then in the future, for the future film or for the next project, or whenever we get a rigger in-house here at the animation studio, we can get more developers working on rigging tools. Because one of the main showstoppers now is that, like Campbell, who was doing the face map and a lot of fancy rigging features, basically we have no rigger to talk to on the high level we need.
We need a rigger in-house. Next question. I heard on a few occasions that Python is a limiting factor for Blender because it's single-threaded, maybe. Would Blender benefit from C++?
Blender already uses C++ for a lot of things.
But maybe a C++ API is what they meant.
We have a C++ API for a lot of software like Maya and so, because the software itself is closed source. So if they want to extend it with C++ and C functionality, they cannot just access the code, so they need a plugin for that. Blender being open source, if you have a big studio that needs your own C++ plugins, you actually just code within Blender. Not limiting. For I/O, so importing and exporting is a bit of a bottleneck.
Yeah.
Like the FBX plugin, for instance, is Python only, but that's all.
Awesome. Next question. Are there any plans to build a network rendering manager into Blender? Not that I know.
No, but we have a track.
We have Flamenco. Yeah, Flamenco.io. It's the software that we use for rendering Spring and on pretty much every other modern open movie project, and it's a service. It's open source and it runs on Blender Cloud. For like, if you already have a cloud subscription, you can use it there, or you can run it on your own locally. But it might be a bit technical if you're not into typing a bunch of stuff. But it's free and open source.
There's a question about GLTF. It's a really good one.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
So the status of Blender GLTF export. So GLTF is a format that's supposed to take over the gaming industry in terms of interoperability. So right now we still rely a lot on FBX to go to Unity and Unreal, and we're really betting our money on having GLTF as a widespread format. Unreal is really behind that, on Unity to some extent. And with this you can take care of all the export of the I/O, the importing and exporting for gaming, and having USD, Universal Scene Description, something that Pixar's pushing
USD, wow.
Yeah, for offline rendering for like cycles. So in that sense, Blender itself, we don't have any core developer working on the GLTF, but we have other contributors adding up to that.
Amazing.
Is gonna be there. So what for the future?
Yeah, absolutely. There was one question in the live stream that I just spotted about if there is training on the Blender Institute here. Yes, there is. Just go to blender.org/institute/training and you'll find all the courses, Grease Pencil, Krita even, Blender Studio, VFX. There is a bunch of training given here at the Blender Institute in Amsterdam. So if you want to come hang out.
Is it true that some of the trainings are still using Blender 2.7?
There was a beginner's training last week, and they
shocking news. I was a bit shocked.
And actually, we asked the people, like the students, what do you want to learn, 2.8 or 2.7, and they picked 2.7. So you get what you want. Want to learn 2.4? I can teach you 2.4.
That'd be awesome.
Actually, today, by the way, it's just a small thing. It's 11 days since I first.
11 years.
11 years. 11 years. It's been 2 weeks. 11 years.
You mentioned during lunchtime. That's what I remember.
In the Yo Frankie, actually, it's the first time that I joined. Actually, I looked it up the other day. New Apricotter, Venom GFX here. Is a.
They have a picture there?
Yes, there is a picture, of course. Venom GFX. That's my nickname, and that's me. Yay! With two developers from Crystal Space and Chris Plash, which is also known as Sushi Masters nowadays.
That's awesome.
Let's okay, more questions. Let's try and make it super fast, right? What about the texture editor?
Well, the text editor.
Yes, no, that.
Not editor. There's not that. The texture pipeline in Blender is going to change a lot with procedural texturing and all that. So yeah, texture editor is going to be part of this.
Yeah.
You're doing fast answer now.
Like a ping pong. Yeah.
Because you need to watch the spring premiere in Tedinsky.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's why I haven't seen the movie online.
Because you're gonna watch it on a cinema. Yeah, lucky you. I was wondering if you were able to see the circle created once we use the screw modifier. If it was there before, it's just a matter of bringing it back. There are still some overlays that need to be brought into the new OpenGL.
And the
stuff.
tool system, they're going to be polished to some extent to 2.80, but again, it's one of the topics that for 2.81 and 2 it's going to be improved.
Yeah.
So we know there's going to be keep on going development on that.
Will we ever see procedural modeling in texture of Blender?
I think the All Node project
Everything
promised
knows,
that.
Yeah. I've thought so. Why can't we apply modifiers when shape keys are on a model?
Good point. Because you lose one of these data, I suppose.
Can be
Maybe
destructive.
possible.
I mean, you could. Good question for the other devs. Can you get the remove doubles on the delete menu? Yes, that remove doubles in the X menu, that will be handy.
Oh.
They already mentioned it twice. Sorry, I still haven't got into it. But now that spring is over, the project, I think I'm gonna go back to doing Blender
it
stuff.
fits there.
I think it does because you're removing.
Yeah,
And
maybe,
doubles,
yeah,
right?
probably.
It's a remove, it's a delete. When will I will propose it and ask William here, which is around, by the way.
Yeah, maybe good.
When will the render image and render movie button return? Do you miss them? Render movie?
Oh, not really. I think it's because we had the render button and then we had the sound export button, which never made sense. So it's a good compromise. I'm fine.
To remove both of them. Control and Shift to move around, come back in the viewport. Do you use that?
No, I use the emulate 3 mouse
Emulate
button
3 mouse
every
buttons.
single time in my life. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's one of the emulate buttons guy. You know, they come with a button nowadays, right? Just saying.
I use Mac for quite some time, so
Oh, okay.
you got used to not
For
having
you.
it.
Can you add back the old system so we can have negative faces in Blender 2.80? Actually, you can. They just don't draw negative. That's something that somebody mentioned.
What's an active face?
When the face was flipped, it will show black in 2.7, but in 2.8 it doesn't.
Normal flipped?
Like for example, yeah, I have this, and then I decide to take this and then invert the normals. If I have this, for example, see,
Okay.
I have the one pointing in. They don't draw like badly. They don't draw.
You want the back? You can enable the back face cooling in Blender. Or
to not see.
Or
you
you can
mean.
just put the face orientation for that.
I can have this so you don't see, or you see the face over orientation. But I think this is more like you can control how much you see it. I think I'm not sure. Negative faces, no negativity, and can you add a voice to timeline so you can select a voice and will show. Use the sequencer. That's what the animators use here. Will the bake texture button return?
We have it there. Or you mean the Blend Eternal?
Blender bake texture is in the render settings, right?
No, it's in the pipeline. On the. Oh, because buttons were removed, but I think the button's there.
You think?
Change to cycles.
To cycles and then bake.
Bake's there.
Is here. So we have this. Why can't we have the render button?
But that's we shouldn't have the big button there. That's
no, it should be somewhere else. Yeah.
But no one's saying it. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Re-rendering all movies in cycles.
Wow.
The files are there. Why don't you guys do it, please?
We had some characters.
Wouldn't that be a? Oh, by the way, 2010, 2020 is the 10-year anniversary of Sintel. So you have some time.
And we had already somewhere in the internet the Sintel re-rendered.
Yeah,
just
but not
a
the actual
character,
thing like with it.
an Elephant Dreams character. I don't know.
I would love to see it actually rendering EEVEE.
That'd be nice. Or Caminanda's in EEVEE.
Oh,
It's a diorama, like
Hernandez.
just one shot. That'd be nice.
Yeah. But EEVEE is okay.
The hair is a pro. I don't know.
The hair.
But the hair
might be
looks
an
so
issue.
beautiful in EEVEE. You saw the tiger demo from Daniel by
Yeah.
said.
It's a good point. Okay, so I think we're getting to an end, and people are already asking him to leave
Oh, you're not
because
joining us?
I am not joining because I have to do the live stream in Spanish, which I do in 1 hour.
true.
Blender hoy, and I will miss the
You
premiere.
went to the pre-premiere in
I
the
know.
cinema. It's all good.
And it's cool to do it anyway. So, can you render in 4K in Blender quality? Yes, you can. If you have the... Actually, by the way, okay, not a lot of people know, and with this we are gonna leave. Not a lot of people know that the daily dweebs is in 8K.
Man, the comments are so good.
The daily dweebs is the first and only Blender
Oh wow. And it's
movie
stereoscopic.
rendered in HK, H8,
Jesus
8K
Christ.
up here, as you can see. And also stereo. Insane. Okay, and before you leave, the question everybody asks me on every live stream, when are we gonna have stereo panoramic cameras in EEVEE? People keep asking. There are people waiting outside hanging signs. Is that but I mean, do you think it fits somewhere in the roadmap for the next upcoming releases?
Well, as I said, VR is one of the topics we're gonna work on. So this kind of fits into VR. It's in my personal roadmap, but that doesn't mean much because
yeah, you also have personal rent to pay. So it's kind of
well, let's see. It's totally doable with the current pipeline. If not as a core feature in the beginning, it's as something with Python.
Yeah.
At least for the first, I would first do the panorama, and I had a branch working. I think I mentioned once, and we'll do this with Python, and then do. I'll probably first do it with Python. Is the easiest way, but it'd be nice to have it as a built-in thing, so you can have it in the viewport.
That would be amazing.
So you can have the viewport actually working with fisheye, with fixed solid render, with all those fancy modes. The selection might be a problem. So yeah, I'd love to.
Awesome. Well, with that promise,
that's no promise.
So next week on no, okay. So thank you everyone for staying up this late, whatever you are, or for you to stay here. Now you have to rush to the Amsterdam Tuchinski Museum theater.
I'll bike there.
You're gonna bike there?
I'll try.
It's like 20 degrees outside. What am I doing in here? Okay.
I'm finally using my winter clothes again. I miss using them.
It comes from Brazil. It's summer. There, autumn there.
Yeah. No.
There's no such autumn in Brazil.
It's in Rio. It's actually mild cold.
Oh, it's like 20.
So there was like a few days last week I didn't use the air conditioning. So that for me is
that's wow. What a nightmare. What a nightmare. So
spoiled brat.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for staying. And are you here next Monday? No, this time?
No, I leave on Saturday. But I'll be on the other side. I'll be watching the streaming.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I want you saying hi in the chat. I will. Thank you very much. Thank you for staying up
Pablo. It's my pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And do you know how we live actually? With which kind of music do we use? And
some bossa nova.
Some. No.
Oh, the chrono. Is it the chrono?
No. Yeah, no. It's the Sonic Boom from from that game we cannot announce, especially with the Article 13.
3,
2, 1. Watch out! You hear it? Get your headphones. All right, thanks everyone for tuning in. I will see you again, same place, same time next week. Ciao.